they shouldn't take it any further because it wasn't their jurisdiction, basically.
Yeah.
And me personally, if that accusation was made against, whether it's royalty or not, it's still a serious accusation.
It's still a serious
and
accusation.
Whether it's to do with a case that's being dealt with in another country, you should still make an investigation, because this is to do with the member of the royal family within the country.
Exactly.
The person that represents our country is being accused of this. You need to look into this to make sure, so you get the handle of it before it spins out like how it is now, where we've got a man speaking out. Like, I just want to know who was part of Prince Andrew's team that said it was a good idea for him to talk. Like, I know that you can't tell a prince what to do, but
do you know what
I feel like it was just like the worst thing anyone could do. It's like, it was like watching the OJ interview.
It's personally speaking, I'm going to summarize that interview as, if everyone internationally gets to see it, it was an international tragedy. It was an international tragedy whereby you were involved in terms of a friendship of some form. Yeah, whether it was a byproduct of someone you knew from college that was with that person, Epstein. That's Glenn, isn't it? That the lady. Is that how you say her name? Ghislaine? Ghislaine, I think that's her name.
Maxwell, her name?
Maxwell, yeah. The fact that you knew her, and then even when he went in for, was it that 13 weeks that he went in, which was, I found so shocking, when Epstein went in for just 13 weeks and he came out. And then you're saying that you weren't in contact with Epstein, but you were in contact with his partner. But you're saying that you have very close associations with her. But in your interview, you're also saying that after that period, you were also seen as a member of the royal family. You've taken personal flights, his private jet. You've used his private jet. You've had invitations. You've had form of contacts, and embedded between thousands and thousands and thousands of paperwork, which almost got lost, but Panorama found it. You guys have had an exchange, a conversation, which pretty much indicates it's evidence that it was about Virginia Roberts.
Yeah.
And you guys met up on the basis of that text. Now, and if there is evidence for that, and your numbers were hidden, but now those numbers have also been tracked, there is something you're hiding, Prince Andrew, and as a result of it, you really need to step forward and you need to speak up, because a very delicate matter will get overlooked on grand scale social media. We might understand it as a city or as a country, but the way it would be looked at, it is going to be dangerous. Yeah. Section 375, the movie, an Indian movie that just recently came out about a rape charge that a woman made on a man, and the man was actually a famous producer. And the man, the person who was representing the actual perpetrator that did the actual act, he said, you need to tell me the full story. And by the time the full story was revealed, Kory, you actually find out that you served the justice by law. I'm going to be careful with my words here. But no justice at the end was served. Because the woman's lawyer comes up to the other lawyer at the end of the movie, and she actually says, sir, law was served but no justice was served, because she understood that even the girl played a part in it, for example. And you look at something like this, Epstein's gone. He was it suicide inside? Claimed. Okay, it was an acclaimed suicide in quote marks, and then all we have is the testimony of Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell in terms of what happened to people like Virginia Roberts, and some of the other testimonies that they are completely disregarding. About, did they say about 30 people have come forward in some way?
I think so, yeah.
I'm just looking at the reflection it has in today's climate, the portrayal this has,
I think it's just more to do with the fact that we talk about things more nowadays in our generation, more so than what they did back in the day, I guess, to do with everything. Like stuff like saying like mental health is new. It's not a new thing. It's always been there.
It's always been there.
It's just you guys never talked about it. You dismissed it as something else. We like now touching on it. It can't just be that. What you can't just
That's
brush
the
it
whole
under
purpose
the
of
sweep
where
it
we
under
can
the rug.
thank-
That's
yeah.
it. That's it. That's what they used to do.
That's where we can thank technology to some extent, because although it's given them a position, I mean, it's given situations like this, like drug trafficking and the Epstein situation,
Oh,
to
it
be
was sex
covered for so
trafficking,
long.
actually.
Sorry, sex, yeah. Sex, where's that drug? They were doing this. Now he's saying, I mean, there was a quote about it, that social media, the fact that this is becoming a social media sort of like live trial where everyone's becoming the judge of us.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But if we actually watch the video, the psychology of your body language is telling us pretty much everything. And that, yes, the nation is looking at, and the nation is looking at you. Everyone is looking at you right now in that interview. And that interview I find fatal. Fatal because I think of Golden Virginia in my head, and I'm like thinking the statistics over the last 2 years in this country of the amount of like just general cases not being reported it's horrific, and how many cases were overturned or like the woman took back. And then you see that she's had this childhood period of hers which she's been traumatized, and she's had to move on from this and everything. And then you have someone who can just genuinely draw a fine line on this and provide the justice, but power and position is in some way is coming in the face of what justice is, should not be blinded by.
And I think it just comes down to the mere fact that he will lose everything if he came out and told the truth. He would lose absolutely, his entire world would fall apart. And that's all he's worried about. He wants to save face, unfortunately.
He does, yeah, but I mean...
It's not a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's the only thing I can say, that he wants to save face, so he'll bumble along in that interview, how, like, he bumbled along kind of like a kid getting in trouble, and then not knowing what to say, we
did say we felt like it was playing out a childhood scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just
kids story.
You've been told off. What?
Oh my god, guys! The amount of times that happened in the interview is, you just see the double chin.
Like there were so many points here where if you wanted to show that you were innocent, there's straight answers, bro.
Answers.
Like there's no
straight
like
answers.
There's no but or yeah but. There's just yes no. That could have been like a really quick interview. It could be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. So basically, what was it in the interview? This actually makes me laugh. Do you know after they lost the contact of when Epstein was charged? Yeah. And then that dinner that he was invited to.
Yeah, 2010.
2010. He said that. See, this is where I'm confused with why these words come out sometimes. And if you're oblivious to all of the stuff that you're saying, that I didn't know all these things were going around as I was seeing the guy and he was still doing the things. Epstein was still doing these things. He said in his own words. He said it was honorable. He said it was. He goes, I knew. He goes, I knew. Then he said, I didn't knew. I know. Then I didn't. I didn't know. He kept saying that back and forward, and then he said, but I stayed at his house despite knowing that these were the charges against that. He was, this is what he was. He's a sex offender. With that, he wasn't even using those Prince Andrew wasn't even using that word. It had to almost be pushed out of him. Yeah. And then he said, staying in his house just seemed like the most convenient thing, and he called it honourable.
No, he said basically
the
honourable thing was the fact of like the reason why he met up with Epstein was because he felt that he couldn't just end the friendship with like most people do, like just ghost the person, or like if you really want to not make contact with them, just send them a message or something like that. He couldn't do that because that would show some sort of weakness as a man, and he had to do the honourable thing would be for him to meet him in person and tell him that they could no longer be friends. When have I ever broken up with a person, unless it's someone I'm emotionally entangled with, Why do I need to meet up with you to tell you that we no longer need to see each other again?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Especially when you know what position you hold.
Like, furthermore,
that just made me laugh.
yeah, like, let's just cut all of this. You're friends with his girlfriend, right? That's the link with you. So if you wanted to get this message to your a friend through friend that you don't want to speak to him anymore, why can't you just tell her to pass on the message? You know, that's another way he could have done it. But he felt he had to fly from the UK to America to see him, to tell him that they could no longer be friends. Yeah. And then subsequently stay in his house for 5 days.
5 days.
Because it was convenient.
Yeah.
He said he could have stayed somewhere else. But
he said he could have stayed somewhere else.
But it was convenient for him to stay there. Why? He was a...
Is that the same house he said he hadn't been on the top floor of?
No.
Well, that's a different one, isn't
house.
it? Yeah,
that's
a different house, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, like, you stay there for 5 days, but you don't know anything that goes on there, but he's a convicted sex offender. What brings you to stay at a convicted sex offender's house for 5 days? Because it's convenient.
Yeah. What? And then in another interview, he's actually said, especially in the Newsnight one, the lady interviewed him. Remember when she said, but you've clearly stated here in this statement, it was so hilarious. She said that there was nothing that could go by when you see him. There was no activity that you didn't know. If you could, correct me on the quote.
She said that there was a quote from someone else that said that you couldn't be around Epstein and not know what was going on.
What was going on? That's it. And then he dismissed that, didn't he? He said, I don't know the person.
Yeah, he doesn't know the person that said the comment, and also, like, you know, like, he made the excuse that because he was royalty, Epstein must have cleaned up his act on accordance of Prince Andrew come to stay with him. That's basically what he said.
How is that even relevant?
In layman's terms, that basically through the fumbles, that's basically what he said.
But then you should be transparent about that conversation. I think on legal grounds you can be transparent about that conversation, but then that would lead to him admitting of some sorts. And I feel like as an eyewitness testimony, I think he went off topic quite a lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He tried to put us off topic.
Yeah, he done a lot of distraction by talking more about something else or talking more about something else, and
you're right,
trying to drift you off topic. But I was just sat there like, I'm reading into more of your body language and what you're saying and how you're reacting to the questions, and like the fact of your statements changing from when she said it the first time and then she says it again and you're saying something completely different. Like, why is your statement changing when she's repeating the sentence? What you didn't hear it the first time?
And you're like, oh yeah.
I'm like, and or furthermore, it just brings like, if you didn't know what was going on while all this was happening, right? And like, when we saw the Panorama documentary, they showed you like where the FBI go through and they show you the walkthrough of Epstein's house where Andrew stayed for 5 days. Walking around that house, how can you not know what was going down?
Yeah.
Like,
how can you not know?
How could you not know?
And even the people that were taking care of the house, when they said in terms of...
No, he wasn't... The guy didn't he was take care of, like, neighbouring houses.
Oh, neighbouring houses.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. How can you not be aware? And also when they showed the footage, the images they showed of the women's bodies, like literally naked women in all these different positions and stances, in each one of these frames, in like this red light. I don't know if that was just the video camera or the actual light of the house. And you can see that all around on the walls. You're telling me when you walked with your head down, sir, because you didn't. You saw this, you weren't oblivious to this, and you did not put a blind eye to this, in consideration that the partner that Epstein had been with for so long, considering her interview and what she has said and what's come out about her, it's appalling.
Yeah.
It's
That you
appalling.
still make you're still speaking to her. Why?
And his in terms of when you said body language, the one thing I noticed throughout the whole interview was, because obviously the interviewer, the lady, and we were obviously being